The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
Yeah, Earnestly Speaking podcast. Let's get it. I'm a giant in New York, in Miami carry heat. So much more in store, my product can flood the street. Opinion Nation Godfather, CEO. Puff in the late 90s, gon' see me blow. Oh. Got my hustle on, no imitation of that. Army of untouchables, Opinion Nation staff. Never an off season, homie, check the numbers. Heart throb in my own right, supplying southern comfort. Earnestly speaking, my ego is well fed. Earnestly speaking, you're too feeble and no threat. See, I'm like a hurricane, you're a mild breeze. Earnestly speaking, leaving Eli a dynasty. Shake!
Podcast coming to you Thursday, August 7th, 2025. Wow, the summer has blown by. We are actually here at home just a matter of days before the start of school. In fact, today my wife and I took our kids to my oldest son Eli's orientation for school today, and then tomorrow we're going to go for Logan's, our youngest son's orientation for school as well, and then school starts next Monday. So this summer, these 10 weeks have flown by so fast. Excuse me, I gotta clear my throat. So fast. And no, I'm not complaining. Obviously, I'm gonna miss obviously good times. We had a fantastic summer. I would argue this was the best summer we've had as a family since being parents. The kids did love it. They also said that they missed school, which is actually surprising because every year we get to this point of the summer, they're like, "Oh, Dad, Mom, I don't want to go back to school again." No, they missed school, which is great to know that they are focused on education and whatnot. I'm sure there are other reasons why they miss school. I know my oldest son, for example, told me that he misses his girlfriend for starters. So I mean, that's one reason. That's a good reason why they miss school. But my sons too also say, my youngest son say he also misses his friends in school, and they have a lot of friends outside of school. But at the same time, they have a very well-rounded life, and and it's showing here especially. But so excuse me, my throat. By the way, my coughing attacks are gone. It's just that now I get a lot of allergies, I guess I want to call that. Cough that out. We had our end of year. We do this every year. We go to Disney, do our end of year end of summer family vacation. Nothing big, like a weekend. And went to Disney, of course. But this is a great trip. Fantastic trip. We went with we didn't go alone. We went with friends. We went with my wife's best friend, her daughter, and one of our other good friends and her daughter as well too. Our village, we call that. And it was a great trip. We started the weekend though Saturday going to a luau. Whether me and the boys went to luau at a coworker's house. Singing in a row. Great job. Thank you to Todd and Kim for the invite. Of course, we had a fantastic time there. And then you get home late because the plan was to leave Sunday morning, early in the morning, at 6:30 in the morning to go to Disney. Now the trip was rounded out in a way where we're into Disney. This is why I was pretty excited about this trip. we were going to go to Disney World, which we did on Monday, but the plan was to go to Typhoon Lagoon. So what happened was the Disney World had this deal all summer where, like, if you rent out a room, one of the hotel rooms for a night, either other selective Disney hotels. In our case, it was the All-Star Resort sports section. That you get a free entry to one of the water parks. It was Typhoon Lagoon, and I think the other ones was the beach. So that was the thing that. Sorry about that. I had a little quick phone call. The wife called me. So anyway, so we left. The plan was to leave Sunday morning. We like to get early. Like my wife and I are when it comes to Disney and comes to trips with the family, especially too with the kids, we are very type A. We like to be there bright and early. We like to be up there because our trip is about 2.5 hours. So we want to be up there. before the heat gets worse, before the crowds were there. So the plan was to get there to Typhoon Lagoon by 9:00, 9:30. Well, unfortunately, we got a little bit late start because we slept in because the night before I went to Luau, got home late. My wife went to work and then she went out to dinner with my sister-in-law, and then she got home after midnight and we were getting things done. And by the time we got to the bed and went to sleep, it was like almost 2 a.m. I didn't sleep well, so I was up in the morning at 6 something in the morning on literally 2.5, 3 hours of sleep, which is not good. But I was running on adrenaline. I was fine. We got there still relatively early enough before the gates opened, and we got a spot. The goal was to get a shade area because the heat down here in South Florida right now, guys. You guys are not living here. You guys don't know. It is bad. It is really, really bad. So we got there by 9:45, able to get our spot we wanted. Met our friends there at some point. They met up with us because we beat them up there first. Had a great time. We went to the water park. So much fun. The wave pool is great. All the rides are great. Just a really good time with some great people, and we just killed time to about 3:30, 4 o'clock before we checked our hotel. Checked in the hotel about 4 o'clock. And we got lucky too because our hotel room ended up being directly in front of the pool and in front of the food court and the bar, which was great because everything was right there for us. Everything we needed was right there. We could just walk right there, like literally spit. That's how close it was. So we got lucky. We got lucky with our hotel room. Our own friend of the podcast, of course, Kyle Nass, to the game. He ended up coming up to visit. He came out like later that evening, and we had a couple hours to hang out and had a couple drinks and had a good time, and it's just talking about life and sports and everything else of that nature. To be honest, you watch us on in conversation in person. It's like us on the podcast. It's like us doing the student report every week on the show. So that was fun. He stayed till the pool closed. Went back home 11 o'clock. I took another bath. I took 2 baths in like 4 hours because it was so hot outside. Fed the kids again and then went to sleep. I was asleep by 12 o'clock on Sunday night. Dreading the next morning because as much as I love going to Disney World and I love Hollywood Studios, I cannot stand the heat there. But we're ready for it. We checked out the next morning woke in the morning, went to get some breakfast, and by the way, the prices there also to the hotel. Given it's a Disney hotel, not too bad actually. I mean, I still wouldn't. I just would prefer to bring my own food, just for the sake of cost, for the sake of it being cheaper. But for the prices that you pay in comparison to being at the park versus the hotel, wasn't that terrible actually. The breakfast was not that bad. We ended up paying about, I think for all 4 of us, about $50 total, which is not, again, when you compare it to everything else. And what it is, not bad. And actually, it was a big breakfast too on top of that. So we stayed. We made sure we slept in. One of the things we said about comparison to when we go to Disney, on the same day, the early morning, because we're already in Orlando. I told my wife, and she agreed. Let's sleep in. I'm not trying to rush into the park. Let's just sleep in. We already had light and lane passes set for the rides we want to do, which didn't go into effect until 12 o'clock. I think it was 12:30. The first ride we would go on, which is Tower of Terror. So we slept in. We slept in, took our time, eased into the day. We were already on the property. So once we got checked out of the hotel, we were able to drive 10 minutes to Hollywood Studios and parking lot and whatnot. Again, it was very hot. I was terrified of how hot it was. But I gotta say and my wife and I were talking about this actually when I probably do an episode on this in the future, Disney do's and don'ts. But one of the things that saved me on Monday at the park, people say, "Oh, bring a fan or bring a misty fan." No, I mean you can bring a fan. It's not going to really help much. It doesn't help me that much because again, you're blowing hot air. The thing that saved me honestly was the cooling towel. The cooling towel. That my wife got a bunch of those. Like in one of her recent trips, she went to Disney and she said, "Listen, use this, and all you have to do is go to the bathroom. It's free. You go to the bathroom. You wet it." And you just put over your head or on your neck, and I gotta tell you, me being bald helped, So I'm feeling the coolness of, I'm feeling cooler, as a result. And it really made my day actually much more bearable. That plus the fact that I was also because we handpicked the rides we wanted to do, lightning lane passes. We were able to go through the lines relatively with ease on those rides specifically. We had a 2-hour gap where I think between 1 and 3 where we didn't have a ride to do. So my son and I decided, my oldest son Eli and I decided to go on the rock roller coaster, which probably would be the last time we go because they're supposed to change the theme of the ride at some point this year and in a year or next year. I don't want to go back there again, but we did the ride, had a great time. Meanwhile, while him and I were on the ride, my wife had texted me saying that we're going on Star Tours, which Star Tours only had a 5-minute wait. So we were done the ride. She said, if you hurry up now, we can get there on time. And blah, blah. So Eli and I ran across the entire park, went to Star Tours. Now, the episode today is called Serendipity. This is where the serendipity part of the podcast comes up now. So we did the ride. We caught up with them in time. Did the ride. Of course, we've done that ride so many times. It's not a big deal, but I still like it. As we're leaving the ride, going outside to go to our next ride, I think it was either Toy Story or Slinky Dog, whatever. I hear someone call my name, EJ. I'm like, who else call me EJ? First off, my wife doesn't call me EJ. She calls me Ernest. My kids always call me Dad. None of my friends who are with us call me EJ either. So I'm like, no one. I don't know anybody here at Disney that's gonna call me that randomly. Heard it again, second time, and I heard it around. I turned around, and I see a familiar face, and it's Jordan Bruce Guarini from the regular of this podcast. Now, Jordan Bruce Guarini, as you know, comes on the show once, twice a year. He's been on the show for 13 years. Here's a little backdrop on this. This is serendipitous. Jordan and I have never met before in person, ever. Okay, I have known him for 12 years through the media. I was doing this medium and stuff for years. And we've had a relatively good friendship as a result because we become friends now to the point, not just acquaintances and people just I come on your radio show and this and that. We talk regularly. In fact, I was supposed to go on his radio show in Utah. And that's where he lives in Utah, Price, Utah. I was supposed to go on his radio show last week, Monday, but it fell through last minute because of scheduling and whatnot. To talk about the Hulk Hogan passing and about his legacy, because he asked me to come on the show. So I spoke to him last week. I did not know he was in town. I did not know he was in Disney. Now, he had said in the past, he had said to me, he maybe said on the show itself when he asked him on the podcast last year, that he had planned on coming to Disney with his family at some point this year, but he didn't tell me what dates. And I kind of forgot about that because, he doesn't live around here. I do. And my wife and I in the family have passes to Disney. So we come here very often. We are here once every few months. We more than maximize the annual passes. So it wasn't front of mind to think that he would be here even in this little sample of 2 days, whatever. Come to find out, he's been here since Saturday. And not only that, here's the worst part. He was here Saturday. He also went to Typhoon Lagoon on Sunday. I believe it was on Sunday. Either Saturday or Sunday. Went to Typhoon Lagoon as well, too. Had I known he was in town in those days I was in Orlando, I would have made a point to hang out with him as well, too, him and Kyle. Get a drink with him. I'll get dinner. I met him and his beautiful daughters, his wonderful wife, April. His dad was really cool as well, too. He was there. But it was so cool when I saw him. I'm like, holy shit, Jordan, what are you doing here? Like, first off, forget the fact that he's at Disney as it is. Because obviously that's a big place and people do travel. He's a Disney family, the Disney family also too, like we are. But the fact that he found me at that point, first off, we had no plan on Star Tours. Star Tours was the last minute thing my wife decided to go on because we had that 2-hour gap. But we've done Star Tours so many times that we didn't even think about it. So imagining at that little serendipitous moment where he all of a sudden finds me, and and here's another thing too. Also, that was really strange. Also, too, when I was coming out of the Star Tours ride, it wasn't like he could recognize me necessarily because I had my cooling towel was above my head. It was over my head. I was trying to cool off. So it was covering my face. Not my face, but like a lot parts of my head. So unless you looked really good in my face, you could recognize me. Certainly someone you never met before in person, And he said what the tell was I was wearing a Metallica t-shirt. Duh. So big black dude, handsome, wearing a Metallica t-shirt. That's the giveaway. So we had in a couple minutes we spent together. We had a great time. We just talked a little bit. Obviously he had rides to go to as well. But to see someone like that, and again, it makes you grateful for this platform and for this show and what this show's meant. I have created so many different friendships and relationships with people through the years because of this podcast. And some people, there's a lot more people who have never met in person still. Like I said, Kyle, we only met twice in person after doing the show for 13 years. Obviously, I told you a story last year, meeting up with Big Jim and Kyle and Matthew Elias in person for the first time in Orlando last year, because things worked out. We were able to do a trip together. But that was so cool. But to see that moment, the way it played out was very, very serendipitous. And Jordan, he said he'll come on the podcast and talk about it, because this is just so cool. This is really cool. And yeah, I couldn't get over it. And a couple days later, I'm still not getting over it. I'm still stunned at how everything worked out the way it did. So all in all, a great trip. We had a great time. At the end of this episode today, I will give you my top 5 Disney rides. Although it is a fluid list, but I've nailed down my top 5 Disney rides right now on the entire property. So great weekend. School starts next week, and yeah, looking forward to that. All right, let's see some things that's happened here. So ESPN and Disney has been very active, making some deals this week, making a lot of big deals. ESPN landed deals this week with first the NFL. They have now acquired the NFL Network, the Red Zone Channel, and other media assets from the NFL. In exchange, the NFL received a 10% equity stake in ESPN. The deal also includes a merger of NFL Fantasy Football with ESPN Fantasy Football. The new agreement aims to expand the reach of NFL programming and to make it more accessible to fans as well. Now, that's again, I don't know. I'm assuming this kicks in next year. That's what's this year. I don't know. I'm really curious how that plays out in terms of do you have to pay? Will this be included in the ESPN? Because remember, ESPN now has their own. They've had their own app and streaming service, but it was complicated because there's the cable version of ESPN, and then there's the on-demand stuff. Like what you're paying $10 a month for ESPN currently right now, you only get access to the ESPN related shows, certain events, and in the on-demand stuff. But the new ESPN now that's being launched this fall. I forgot the name of it. I think it's ESPN. I don't call it ESPN Plus. I think it's ESPN Now or something like that. $30 a month. You no longer have to have cable for it anymore. So you get the full shebang of ESPN, and I'm assuming with that includes the library of shows as well as on demand. So that's a big deal. Also, they've also made a big deal with the WWE. Starting 2026, ESPN platforms will include exclusive U.S. domestic home will be the home for all WWE premium live events, including major events like WrestleMania, SummerSlam, and Royal Rumble. This is part of a new 5-year, multi-billion-dollar deal. The PLEs will be streamed on ESPN's new direct-to-consumer streaming service, with some events also simulcast on ESPN's linear television networks. The deal is seen as a major move for both companies, allowing ESPN to attract WWE large and passionate fan base, and giving WWE a partnership with a major sports media brand. Now, this one I'm a little more eyeballs, question mark, roll my eyes a little bit, because WWE obviously post Vince McMahon era, now I think 2-3 years removed from that. TKO, which is the UFC and WWE merger. Very critical. I've been very critical of some of the moves they've made, financial moves, mainly because of the pricing of sorts. For example, WrestleMania tickets in Vegas this year was very expensive. One of my friends, coworkers, went to night 2, paid $700 to sit on top of the arena, the stadium rather, which was insane. WrestleMania this year was scheduled. Next year was scheduled to be in New Orleans, and the WWE or TKO decided last minute to rip that carpet under them and move to Vegas once again. So, because that's where the money is, obviously. Now, look, I'm a capitalist. I have no problem with companies making money. Do what you got to do. My problem is I don't know if TKO knows the wrestling audience. The UFC audience is not the WWE audience. Wrestling fans are much more blue collar. They don't have as deep pockets as you think. On top of that, we hear rumors, and we covered this on the Falls Count Anywhere podcast with Rob 2 nights ago. There's rumors now that are circulating that in addition to WrestleMania and now this year's SummerSlam, which was the first 2-night event they've done, now there's rumors that WWE is looking to making all their big the big 5 PLEs, Money in the Bank, Royal Rumble, Survivor Series, 2-night events. Again, stretching out as their job is to create streaming income revenue. So I'm not mad about that. But at some point, when is enough? When is the bubble going to burst? I think we're getting closer. I think that bubble's bursting closer than you realize. It's the same question we had with the NFL. Kyle and I were talking about this actually in not on the show, but on Sunday when we were talking about the bubble for the NFL. But all these moves they're doing now, when is their bubble going to burst? He thinks it's coming up right now. We're going to have that conversation on the show when we do the next 2-game report in the next couple of weeks. But that bubble may be bursting on both ends. My criticism is the fact that I don't think TKO knows your audience. You can say what you want about Vince McMahon, and there's a lot of things to be critical of him, both creatively and obviously the stuff that he's been alleged to have done behind the scenes. But the one thing I want to say about Vince McMahon that I will always give him full credit for is that he knew his audience. He knew his audience. That's why a lot of these events were not sky high and expensive, because Vince knew his audience. So we'll see this plays out. We're not going to know for a couple more years, whether or not these moves are going to be successful. But I'm telling you, as someone like myself who's a WWE fan, I don't have deep pockets. I don't. Okay, my wife and I were actually considering flying to go to New Orleans next year for WrestleMania. We're not going to Vegas. That's off the table. Number one, she has no interest going to Vegas. Number one, but also number two, the prices. Again, imagine this: $700 for WrestleMania. I imagine they're not going to lower those prices next year because people still pay for it. So why would they lower it if people are going to pay for it? So it's going to take fans just saying no, enough's enough. But then they're trying very hard to price people like myself out of this thing, man. And why would you do that? But we'll see. I mean, TKO they are not a wrestling owned company. They're not a wrestling company, and they don't know the wrestling audience. And this could bite me in the ass. But we won't know for a long time if that will happen. So let's see what happens there. All right. Also, there's some rumors that came out. That's 2 days I saw. Howard Stern. There's a lot of speculation about the end of the future of Howard Stern show. There's a rumors that the Howard Stern show may in fact be ending after this year. He signed a 5-year contract with SiriusXM in 2020, worth around $500 million. That deal's ending this year. Now, there's been rumors were split for a long time, suggesting that SiriusXM may not be willing to meet Stern's financial demands for a new contract. Some sources have claimed that the company feels the investment is no longer worth the cost. There's also speculation about SiriusXM shifting its focus towards more podcasts and digital content. No official word about Stern or SiriusXM. There's been no official statements, not yet. He has made some comments recently, hinting at retirement, and in the past has openly discussed the possibility of stepping away from the show. However, he has said he enjoys working from home and that it gives him no excuse to quit. While some reports suggest the show may be canceled, other sources indicate that Stern could be open to a shorter-term contract, 1 or 2 years, if the financial terms are correct or right. It's also possible that SiriusXM could secure a deal to license the extensive archive of his past shows, even if new episodes stop, which is very true. I have never really been a big Howard Stern guy growing up. I think I started to appreciate him more as I got older, even though some of his content through the years have been very questionable, in my opinion, but that's my opinion. But one thing is clear is Howard Stern is probably the most recognizable and certainly the biggest impactful radio host in the market, and has been. Now, I will say that his relevancy, while he is still relevant, he's 71 years old. I will say that Howard Stern certainly is not as relevant as he used to be. A lot of it could be because of politics, which of course is very divisive, and people are choosing sides in that. But I think people have also probably gotten a little. I think for people, he's gotten a little stale. I don't know, but I it's hard to imagine a world where Howard Stern is not existing in this space. As someone who does content myself, and Howard Stern, I don't know if I call him an influence on myself, but he's certainly someone you look at this medium, podcasting and radio and all this stuff. He is someone you look at. It's like, yeah, that's the goal. That's the North Star. Howard Stern's the North Star. So we'll see how this plays out. I think if I had to make a prediction here, I think SiriusXM and Howard Stern will come to a deal, maybe a short-term deal to make him whole. But you're seeing this now with a lot of networks too, also not wanting to pay a lot of money for these personalities, Stephen Colbert and CBS, for example, and Paramount. Now, obviously, we also agree that both things we right here, that both politically, number one, there's political issues in terms of the merger of Paramount and the other company you're doing with, but it's also the fact that, there's shit ton of money. Is SiriusXM losing money with Stern, or is the juice squeezed out of Stern? I don't know. But we'll see. My prediction is that Stern will be back for at least another year or two. They'll come to a short-term deal and go from there. So, what else here? A little NFL talk here. Marv Levy, former Buffalo Bills coach, four Super Bowl appearances in a row with the Bills between 1999 and 1993. Just turned 100 years old. Wow, 100 years old. God bless that guy. He's actually one of my favorite coaches of all time. One of my favorite, growing up watching NFL films, videos, and DVDs and all that stuff, and you watch all those like classic, sideline, stuff with coaches. He's one of my favorites. You have Sam White. You got obviously Mike Ditka, Bill Parcells. Marley was one of my favorites. He was very quotable on there. I was doing I do my podcast also on my day job, and we were talking about Marv Levy, turned 100 years old, and we discussed on the show. Sorry about that. I'm getting a little text here and there. I gotta move my phone there real quick. We were discussing about Marv Levy never won a Super Bowl, but it's been to 4 in a row. With that great Buffalo Bills team. Where does he rank among the great coaches in the NFL? And I told everybody on the panel, listen, I think we live in an era where like if a coach doesn't win a Super Bowl, then he sucks, and I hate that. I hate that kind of rhetoric. Getting to the game is hard. Look at teams like Cleveland and Detroit and all these franchises who suffer for years, who barely make the playoffs every year. If they struggle to the playoffs every year and whatnot, so like this is easy. So I told him, I said, he's easily, this without even thinking about it, a top 20 coach, top 20 all time. Okay. And then we can have that conversation about in more detail and context where he will land in a more closer focused argument. I'll be honest, he's probably closer to 10 than you think though. Obviously you put the obvious guys ahead of him, you do an all time list. So Chuck Noll and Jimmy Johnson and, you put obviously Parcells and Andy Reid, all those guys, that's easy. But once you get down to like the 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 area, there's a conversation for Marv Levy to be in that top 15, closer to 10. Now, do I pull the trigger on that one? I don't know. But man, there is a conversation for that. So Marv Levy, obviously he gets attached to that whole like, well, you never won a Super Bowl and stuff. But dude, 4 in a row is incredible. Okay, 4 in a row is incredible. This is getting there. And obviously he should have won one. The first one was obviously Scott Norwood missing that kick against my Giants, which by the way was the only Super Bowl I did not root for the Buffalo Bills. Was that first one for obvious reasons. I'm a Giants fan, but Marv Levy is definitely, in my opinion, easily top 20 coach in all time, and you can make an argument for closer to 10. I'm gonna go as far as say top 10 all time. Maybe I'll do a list one day and see where he ranks, but he's definitely in the top 10, top 20, probably top 15. So God bless Marv Levy, turning 100 years old. All right, what else did I miss while I was on my little hiatus here? Luka Doncic and the Lakers agreed to an extension. 3 years, $165 million. This is his team now. This is his team. And folks, we knew this was coming. Look, everybody was talking about how like Luka and the Lakers may not get a deal done. And I told you guys, listen, you don't trade that guy for that guy. If you're not, if the goal isn't to extend him for the next, 5 to 10 years, like that's not happening. This is the Lakers. And it's a shorter deal because the deal is actually runs in concert for when the next CBA is going to happen in 3-4 years, to which you can get another deal once you get the new TV deal in place. So strategic, of course. This is a big year for Luka, man. This is the year for Luka, because obviously LeBron's still there. Probably his last year in the Lakers. So I speculate maybe in the league. Luka so far looks really good. I mean, you see some of the videos and pictures of him right now in the offseason. He's slimmed down. He's bulked up. He looks really good. But ultimately, it comes down to putting the work in. And again, the Lakers, where are they in the pecking order in the Western Conference? Are they as good as OKC? Nope. Are they as good as Denver? I still say no. Are they as good as the Clippers? Maybe. No, I still say no. And I will still put Houston on them right now, too. Also, so right now, you have clear 4 teams that are better than the Lakers coming to the year. Now, I do like the Lakers roster right now, currently. A lot of question marks there. But Luka is the guy that's going to put him over the top. He is the guy. It is his team now. LeBron maybe the face of the league still and all this stuff. And LeBron is obviously number 2 all time. And we have that conversation. But for the Lakers to succeed moving forward, Luka Doncic has to be the guy. It has to be the reason they get to a championship going forward. All right. Before I go, as I promised, we talked about Disney rides earlier. I'm going to give you my top 5 favorite rides on the entire Disney World property. Okay. That includes all 4 parks. Okay. Number 5, Slinky Dog at Hollywood Studios. Yes, it looks like a kiddie ride because of the animation and the Toy Story angle and all that. But just think about it. It is a dope roller coaster. I did the ride again this week with the family and had a great time. It's great for all the kids. It's still edgy enough for the adults to appreciate. And I enjoy it. I love it. There's like nice dips, there's nice climbs, there's a couple, it's not scary to the point where, you have to worry about hurting yourself and, feeling anxiety to do the ride. It's a great ride. I love it a lot. Very underrated. All right, number 4. This one is going to shock some people, but I'll say anyway. Tower of Terror. Story behind this one. I never did Tower of Terror until last year for the first time. I'm not a fan of drops. Rides that have to deal with drops, no sir, not into it. My wife included. However, the story goes last year, we did a mini vacation last year. Our 2 kids wanted to go. Both our kids, Eli and Logan, wanted to go on the ride. And we were not going to have them go by themselves, obviously. So they begged us to go on the ride. My wife decided to go on the ride with them because they kept begging for it. I didn't go because of my high blood pressure and all that stuff. Okay. She said the ride was not that bad. She was better than she realized. Okay. So then I decided the next time we went to Disney, I think the next trip we went to Disney, I think a couple months later, I decided to go on the ride with them. And I did the ride and I loved it. And I remember kicking myself saying, why the hell did I wait this long to do this damn ride? This ride's incredible. So Tower of Terror is now my top 5. That's how good it is now. All right. Also, by Tower of Terror, also Hollywood Studios. Number 3, Mount Everest in Animal Kingdom. Did the ride for the first time in about 12 years. I hadn't, prior to this March, I hadn't gone to Animal Kingdom since 2011, before we were parents. And even when we had our passes through the years, in between now and then, I did not go to Animal Kingdom. We just never went because my wife didn't want to go, and I wasn't going to push her for it, towards anyway. And then we decided to start going recently in March, which meant okay, Everest time. So we did Everest again in March, and I became obsessed with it again. Like I did Everest back in the day, and I loved it, and now doing it again for the first time in over 12 years, I missed the ride so much, and we done it multiple times since then. We done Animal Kingdom a couple times since then. The last time with Animal Kingdom, back in June, after seeing Metallica, unfortunately, the ride shut down for the day because some mechanical issues on the ride. But yeah, Everest is dope. Everest is a phenomenal ride. All right, number 2, and this was my favorite ride until number 1 became it. Number 2, of course, Rock and Roller Coaster, the Aerosmith ride, which will be turning into the Muppets at some point next couple of years. Again, it's a dope ride. Love the music. Classic feel to it. You go inside in the dark, but you see the street lights and the the signs, all that. My son loves it. It's his favorite ride on the park. His number 2 ride also as well on the in the entire park, but number 1, unfortunately, not unfortunately, but number 1 is the new one at Epcot, the Guardians of the Galaxy ride. Guardians of the Galaxy is just like Rock and Roller Coaster, except it's more and more creative. Number 1, not only is the ride straightforward, it's not straightforward, it also spins and there's a lot of cool things it does, and very smooth also too. I love the ride. It's still, most people I talk to will agree it is the best ride on the entire Disney property. Everybody I talk to agrees with me on that one. It's pretty much the reason you go to Epcot. Like, honestly, like there's cool things to Epcot to go to. Obviously, the Soarin', Soarin' ride is pretty cool. A couple of things there, at Epcot. But if you're going to go to Epcot, the reason you go to Epcot is because of Guardians. Guardians of the Galaxy is what actually made Epcot more appealing in the recent years. So again, number 5, Slinky Dog. 4, Tower of Terror. Number 3, Everest. Number 2, Rock and Roller Coaster, and number 1, Guardians of the Galaxy. And that will do for today's podcast, dated August 7th, 2025. I am on X at EJ Christian 7. Earnestly podcast, of course, all podcast catchers. Check out all the content, of course, on YouTube, the videos, of course, of the show at Earnestly Pod on YouTube. Subscribe, guys, if you get a chance. Also, clips of the show on TikTok at Earnestly Pod, Instagram, Earnestly Pod. Until the next episode, we will talk soon.